Welcome, everybody, back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, and as always, and every single week and episode, I am joined by my illustrious co-host, good friend and tag team partner, Mr. Adam Cousins. Adam, we have a very special show today, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Well, I'm not drowned in the monsoon conditions yet. We had a bit of your weather earlier on.
Mate, I've been, it's been bad for me. Don't ever work outside in these conditions. But Adam, we have a very special guest, my man, today. As always, you are the king of the introduction. Over to you.
Yes. Well, Andy, cast your mind back. 96, 97 into 2000s.
We were getting rejected by lots of girls at school. No, okay, sorry. That's a different podcast.
That's definitely not you. No, but we'll go back to, we used to play the N64. It was one of the best. It was the console. You had GoldenEye. But for us wrestling fans, No Mercy, WCW, NWO, Revenge, WrestleMania 2000. Well, now we've got someone on that's going to bring that back for us. They want to bring back an N64 version of a wrestling game. A modern day wrestling game. And not only that, they went on to Kickstart and they got just under 1,100 backers and just over £61,000 raised for this video game. So to tell us all about it, we have Sam from Ultra Pro Wrestling and Hyperfocus Games.
Welcome, hey. Sam. How are you, mate?
How's it going?
We are good, my man. We are good. We are big wrestling fans, as you probably guessed on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. But yeah, me and Adam grew up with wrestling games. I remember bunking off school to go and play the WWF arcade game in my local Debenhams. But you know, I love wrestling games. Obviously, 2K23's just come out. But Sam, tell us about this game. How that process even begun? How did you even think? You know what? I'm going to make a wrestling game.
Well, I guess like you guys, I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. You know, grew up with it. Probably have very similar memories to the memories that you guys have. Old Hasbro figures, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I was a lifelong wrestling fan. I tried to pursue a career in wrestling at one point. That kind of ended around the age of 20, and then I decided I need to find my way somewhere else. I had a couple of friends that got into video game development. One of them actually now works for Rockstar, so he did pretty well.
And he did very well.
Yeah, yeah. And so I guess watching his career take off, and you know, I used to go to this guy's house and he would do all kinds of crazy stuff, like stuff that I just didn't even know was possible for, especially like, you know, at that age. He was taking apart his old NES console and modding it so it could play Japanese games, and I was just blown away by all the stuff that he was doing. So yeah, when his career took off, that's when I started thinking, do you know what? Maybe video games is a career path, that because it's always been like, you know, wrestling and video games. It's just that's the two things. Wrestling was always number one. But yeah, big video game fan. Always had a Nintendo, a Mega Drive, SNES, N64. Had all those consoles. So yeah, I don't know. I just turned my attention to video games. Initially, I didn't think of doing a wrestling video game. It was just the sort of, I don't know, I like video games, so I thought, well, I could start out developing apps for like Android and iPhone. These kind of, it was around the time actually Angry Birds and all that were getting kind of big, and yeah, I remember thinking at the time they looked kind of simplistic, like maybe it's not too hard, you know. So I got into college and studied software development. Yeah, so I had a bit of a career as a game developer before I started thinking about putting my two loves together, wrestling and video games. And yeah, there's a whole sort of side story of how the game actually got started, and it had to do with a wrestling company in Scotland. But I'll leave it there to let you guys come back with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's incredible to start a wrestling game from scratch. So obviously, you said you were a lover of wrestling growing up, you know, and what video game was your, before we get into your one, what was your earliest memory of wrestling video games. Like you say, I remember the one on the NES and the SNES, and I had one on the Mega Drive. And like I loved the arcade game. So for me, that's when wrestling games were wrestling games. And I think on one of them, I was always the 1-2-3 kid because he was really quick and stuff. You know what I mean? I loved it. What was your first memory of wrestling games?
My first memory, well, my earliest sort of clear memories are of the Sega Mega Drive, Raw, and there was Super WrestleMania as well. But I'm pretty sure my first actual wrestling video game was on the NES. Was I think it was WrestleMania Challenge. And I don't really have memories of playing that too much, but I do have a memory of going to my friend's house and seeing on the floor he had the cartridge for Steel Cage Challenge, and I had no idea. I was a big wrestling fan, and I had no idea that this game even existed. And I remember seeing it just lying there on his floor, and so that must have, like, you know, I knew that the other games existed because I must have had them, but I remember seeing that game and being blown away and like, oh my god, that's a thing. And so, but yeah, we spent a lot of time playing those. What was the other one? There was Raw.
What was the one? There was a wrestling. It was kind of a wrestling. They'd done like Street Fighter moves in it. Oh, it was on the NES or Nintendo 6. I can't remember.
There's Super Slam. Is it Super Slam Masters or sorry, Saturday Night Slam Masters?
Yeah, I remember one just like Razor Ramon versus like Ryu from Street Fighter, and it was just like incredible. And I was like, wow, this is. They were doing like Street Fighter moves and Mortal Kombat moves, and it was like. Oh, you know, when you're 11, 12 years old, you're like, you love Street Fighter, you love wrestling. This is awesome. You know what I mean? The Undertaker was like, come here, and you know, slammed him down, and I absolutely loved it. But yeah, no, Adam, what was your earliest memory of playing wrestling games before we hear about Sam's amazing adventure that they're on now? And I'm so thrilled to have him on. He's bringing back our childhood, basically. What was your earliest memory of playing wrestling games?
Yeah, there was WrestleMania on the NES. Obviously the Royal Rumble. I think it was Royal Rumble that come out.
The one with Razor Ramon on the cover.
Yeah, there was a couple of them on the cover.
Couple of them on the cover.
And then as I grew older, my good friend who lives in Essex used to own a video rental store. And obviously when the games used to be released on a Friday, he'd get them on a Thursday afternoon. So it'd be bunging 30 quid for the game, and I'll get it on the Thursday. I was a big fan of the original SmackDown series as well.
Oh, they were good
PlayStations,
games.
you know, Here Comes the Pain and bits and pieces like that. I think nowadays it's got really glitchy. Like 2K23, I got it 3 days before release. I paid the extra money and got it for a couple of days before release. And as much as the graphics are great, it's just still me and my son was playing a Royal Rumble, and all of a sudden I was hooked onto the top rope and no one could eliminate me, which was great because I won. But
that sounds like Vince McMahon booking.
That is for another.
That's for another podcast.
Yeah. But Sam, you mentioned Scottish wrestling company. I'm guessing, is that the one fronted by Mark Dallas?
Yeah, ICW.
Yeah.
What a company! We are big fans down here of that company, mate. Yeah. I'm a big Grado guy.
Yeah. Oh, me too. I love Grado. Yeah, that was so epic when that whole thing came about, because it really just it grew so quickly, so fast, and yeah, that was awesome. But I actually knew a bunch of those guys before ICW even started, because as I said, I was training to be a wrestler at one point, and there was a company, BCW, British Championship Wrestling.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Yes. So so I was there for a while. I was a referee with them for a while. So that's where I kind of got to know a lot of guys. Actually, Mark Dallas was training to be a wrestler at BCW. Before ICW started. So yeah, eventually I ended up kind of reconnecting with them, and because I'd been doing video games, it was brought up. I said, you know, how about an ICW video game? And so that was met with a lot of enthusiasm, excitement. We developed the ICW version of the game for a couple of years. Stuff that I probably shouldn't go into, but yeah, basically the massive breakdown in communication, and it just all sort of slipped apart, and eventually that all came to an end, and I spent then a couple of years away from the game. Basically, the game was quite far along developed, but I just kind of put it on the shelf, and I went away and did other things, other video games, other software stuff. And yeah, a couple of years went by, and I don't know, it was just kind of one of the reasons that I sort of didn't think that it would be successful is that I thought, well, if I don't have licensed wrestlers, if I don't have real world wrestlers, it's going to be hard to sell a game.
It's a bit like Pro Evolution Soccer. Remember when they had like Manchester United?
I was a massive Pro
called like the Red.
It was Man Red,
and like Arsenal.
North East London was Tottenham.
Yeah, exactly.
I was a massive
Tottenham were even rubbish on that game.
Yeah, again, that's another podcast, man. We're not even getting into
that. But Sam, just tell us the process then that you go through from, obviously you developed the ICW game, that was shelved for whatever reasons. Tell us then the process of the game that you're now getting very, very close to releasing. From the minute you thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. Tell us the process that you have to go through. Tell us like how I get a game and I love playing it, but just the thought of actually how you make a game. And you're making a game, you're not just making, it's not like WWE have come to you with a bag load of cash and gone, here you go, Sam, develop us a game. You've had to generate all the funding yourself. You've had, the idea is yours. Just talk us through the process, which has led you up to where we are today.
Well, yeah, I guess if you're sort of starting from scratch, it's difficult because a lot of any video game requires a lot of planning. Before you even start doing any coding or modeling or creating any assets, you basically have to sit down with a Word document and write, what's called a game Bible, and just write up every single feature, element, process, everything that you can think of that would be involved in producing this game. So there's a whole, there's a lot of work outside of the game that goes into it as well. But yeah, I guess with this game, I was kind of lucky because I had a blueprint with the ICW game where I knew, well, it's going to be these ICW characters. So, coming up with character designs, that was easy because it's the real life guys. The brand and the arenas that I'd create for the game, well, that was easy because we were going to do ICW arenas and all that stuff. But once I kind of got away from ICW and the game was shelved, and then a couple of years went by and I eventually went back to it. One of the reasons that I went back to it is because it had always been the plan for me to sort of do an AKI N64 type of wrestling game, because that's my favorite wrestling game. And of course, I guess you guys know as well, a lot of people have been waiting like 20 years or more for a sequel or a remake or something that resembles that old engine. And so, yeah, I got to the point where I was like, well, it doesn't actually matter to me if it's licensed wrestlers or not. The game engine is the thing that's actually important. And if people can create their own characters, then, that it doesn't really matter. So I thought, yeah, I'll just create a bunch of fictional characters. And as long as it plays like the AKI games, I'll be happy with that. So again, when I went back to it, I kind of had a blueprint there as well, because I thought, well, I want it to be exactly like those games, or at least enough like those games that I can get away with. And so again, I've got a kind of blueprint there. I can look at that game engine, the way that it plays. I can try and break it down. I can try and reverse engineer it. You can sort of work out like how much damage does one character do with a punch versus how much damage they do with a suplex. And luckily for me, there's actually a guy online called Melon Bread, who, I don't know how he does it, but he's able to sort of see what's under the hood of these games. And he actually started a hashtag on Twitter. I think it's called hashtag AKI Did You Know? And it's just this series of stuff about the core mechanics of the game and how it works. And so this is like gold to me, because this is without his input, I'd have to sit and play the game and try and reverse engineer and work out how everything's done. But actually, all the sheets of paper you see on the wall behind me, that's all Melon Bread's posts.
Oh wow!
So up on the wall, I just like printed them off. I was like, it's just because there's so much detail. It's like you don't know how much health a character starts with. In the game, a game could say the character has 100% health, but we don't really know what that means. Like behind the hood, there's an actual number associated to that. So Melon Bread just puts out a post and he says, oh, the characters in these AKI games, they start with 255 health. And it's like, oh, okay, 255. I'll write that in. Like so yeah. So he's made just by him doing that, and he's only doing it because he loves those games, And so by him doing that, that's just saved us a ton of work as well.
Oh, wow. Incredible. Adam, you might be able to testify to this. I'm Sam, obviously, through your game. I like the original games when, like, say, like finishing moves were simplified. Obviously, you're playing 2K23 at the minute, Adam. It's double tap this and press that and pull down for this just to do like a stone cold stunner. Back in the day, I had to double tap A twice and maybe push down. And I was doing a razor's edge, I was doing a sharpshooter, or the Undertaker was doing a choke slam. I mean, Sam, is it literally going back to what we know as original gaming?
Yeah, I mean, with the AKI games, it was simple, but there was something intuitive about it as well, where, you know, if you grab a guy and you push up in A, you're actually you're not just doing a random move. The move kind of almost feels like an up in A move. It's like, you know, it might be a choke slam. But whereas if you push down, you're then going to do like a DDT or a pile drive or something that's consistent with down. So yeah, it's quite a simple button combination. It makes it kind of easy to remember, and you might not know whether or not you're going to do a pile driver or a DDT, but you know, if you push down, you're not going to do some big move. But yeah, the WWE 2K games, I actually haven't really played those games for years. Only recently, one of my friends brought in his PlayStation, and he's downloaded the new one. So I managed to have a little bit of a shot of it. But yeah, I found it very hard to get to grips with it, and the button combination stuff. That takes me back to the N64 WWF Attitude and Warzone and all those games where, yeah, you had to kind of memorize these button combinations. So yeah, I don't know. There's just something about the N64 AKI games that were just a lot more intuitive and simpler. But at the same time, although they were simple to pick up and play, they had skill built into them as well, where, you know, all the reversals and all that stuff. Like, basically, if you took a guy that was really skilled at the game and put him with someone new, there's just no amount of button bashing that's gonna, you know, you're not gonna beat the other guy just by not knowing what you're doing. Whereas there's some games, like I actually played one of my friends who's really good at Tekken. The first time I ever played him, I didn't know what I was doing, and just by luck, I beat him. I think I beat him twice. And it's like, now fair enough, those matches are shorter, but I just remember thinking at the time, like, there's no way you could do that on the N64 AKI games. You would never be able to fluke a win against someone that knew what they were doing. So yeah, I like that aspect of it.
Oh wow, incredible! Go on, I'm sorry, mate.
Yeah. So obviously you started for your Kickstarter. Did you have a goal in mind? I mean, obviously you got 61,000, which isn't, you know, in considering everything that's going on, even in the world, you know, financially and everything else, that's some mean feat. Did you have a sort of rough idea of where you wanted to get, and did it exceed expectations?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely exceeded expectations, because I did not think that it would pick up so fast, and I actually thought that I was going to have to, and I reached out to a lot of media companies, and there was a few of them that got back to me and said, "Oh yeah, that sounds interesting. We'll cover the game. You know, we'll do a piece on it." And some of them did, but most of them didn't. And so I thought that it's not going to gain any traction unless these big media companies do something about it. But actually, within the first 3 days, yeah, I actually didn't look at the Kickstarter for the first 3 days. And so the way it actually happened was I launched the Kickstarter, and it coincided with my partner's brother. He was getting married in New Zealand. And so his side of the family, my wife's side of the family, they all booked this big trip. So we were all going to New Zealand, and I kind of scheduled the Kickstarter to launch on the day that we were going. Oh. So that was like a 36-hour trip. So I basically clicked launch on the Kickstarter and then jumped in the car and went to the airport. And then I kind of wanted just to like not know. I just kind of wanted to, right, now I can relax. You know, I've done all this work. Now I can just relax and not really think about it, and whatever happens, happens. And so it got to about day 3 of the Kickstarter, and yeah, my wife's standing there with the phone, and she's like, "Do you want to know?" And I'm like, "No, don't tell me." And then I'm like, oh, well, maybe tell me. It's just, if it's done really bad, then tell me. Just let me know. And she's like, no, it's doing pretty good. And so I'm in my head, I'm thinking, wow, maybe we've got like £300 or something, And but yeah, it turned out it was at that point it was at 13,000.
Wow.
And
That's
and
incredible.
I don't know. It's literally, there's no words. You're just like, how? Like, how is it at 13,000? So it definitely exceeded expectations.
What's the feedback been from the wrestling community? I mean, we're sitting here interviewing now on our podcast, and we're privileged. I love hearing about stuff like this. But what's the feedback been from like the wrestling community? Your own wife, when you say to her, "Babe, I'm gonna make a wrestling game." Okay, Sam, but what about paying the bills? It's kind of that. It's kind of that situation. I mean, what's the feedback that you've got when you said you're going to be doing this?
Well, I mean, from the wife, first of all, that's been good, because for years I've been sort of determined to do something independently. I'd much rather, because if I work for a company and a game's successful, that's great, but at the end of the day, I'm just still only going to get a wage. Whereas if I sort of just put all my eggs in one basket and do something that's really successful, then I obviously benefit from that greater than if it was for a company. So I've always tried to do something on my own for years. And so actually, of course, this game by itself has been developed for years. And I think she basically just lets me kind of get on, do my own thing, doesn't really expect too much. And then so when the Kickstarter did do well, she's now just completely like blown away, like can't believe this is happening and all that. So that's been great. I'd love to tell you some of the messages that I've received, but I feel like I was betraying them if I did. But basically, I can say that I've had messages from current WWE superstars,
Wow,
saying that they're saying that I'm doing God's work. They're very happy with what I'm doing.
You are really, because if you think about it, 2K have got the WWE games, and it's like Adam says, he plays it, and I've played them. I haven't played the new one yet, but they're okay, but they're very. You can buy this. I buy a lot of Formula One games. I don't know why I bother, because I might as well have just kept the one from 2010 to now. Really, the races, the guys are racing the cars have changed. The tracks are a little bit different, but the game, the concept's pretty the same. Adam, do you find that obviously you're just playing WWE 2K23? Has the concept changed? Because WWE 2K22 with Rey Mysterio on the cover got absolutely shit on. Everyone was saying it's one of the worst games ever. And I think the year before was one of the last times WWE, I think something happened with WWE said to 2K, look, you need to either up your game or we're taking our business elsewhere. How do you find it pretty similar, the gameplay? I mean, a lot of people have praised this one, 2K23. I haven't played it yet myself, but I plan on doing it. But the similarities on games, I mentioned Formula One just because I'm a big Formula One guy, they don't change that much. So that's why what Sam is doing is incredible, because this is something, and for those that didn't play the NES or the Mega Drive or, growing up, this is fantastic for them, because all they're used to is WWE 2K.
Yeah, I mean, the game itself, I mean, it's fine. I mean, it doesn't change too much. It's still the same to do your finishers. It's R2 and triangle and R2 and square for your signature. You can still block the finishers. You can do... so Randy Orton can, if they're running, Randy Orton can, and you press the finisher, Randy Orton can throw him up in the end of an RKO. You can catch him in midair with it. Pretty much those type of bits. The game itself is just pretty. I always say FIFA. It's exactly the same as playing like a FIFA game. You're going to get the same teams every year. The engine may change, but the fundamentals stay the same. And yeah, 2K23 is like that. I haven't really played a lot of it, so I normally wait until my boys here of a weekend before we play it. Obviously, it'll work, and we do this a lot of the time during the week anyway. So my time is very much taken up, which is nice. But I'm obviously seeing you every 3 days or whatever it is amazing.
Honestly, Sam, I see him more than my own family.
But no, yeah, I mean, the aesthetics of the game is generally the same as most games are. But this is why. I actually got a retro box now.
Oh man, I keep meaning to get one of them.
Yeah, my mum got it for me a couple of years ago for Christmas, and we that's how my son Riley actually got into wrestling, because he saw WrestleMania the arcade game, and we were playing it out with all the older, so we had Doink and the Undertaker, Brett and Shawn, and Then when he was a bit older, as he grew up older, he started playing my PlayStation, and then that's when it starts. But so Sam, are some of these wrestlers that you created based on the guys in the WWE, AEW, just tweaked slightly?
You know, yeah, kind of. Actually, to be honest, most of them are, especially the names anyway, were names that me and my brother and my friends, we all had when we were kids growing up. We had all these names. So like my brother's name's Ben. So like one of the main characters that you see at the start is Ben Nevis, because that was actually his wrestling name as a kid. Me and my friend Gerald, Gerald was my best friend growing up. So between us, we had loads of different gimmicks. So there's a character in the game, Johnny Cougar. That was Gerald's character. Before actually we had so there's two characters that are, one's based on me, one's based on Gerald. The one based on me was Chad Maverick. And
note that down, Adam. Play as Chad Maverick. That's going to be a really good character in the game. I have a feeling he's going to be quite strong.
I'll make a note of that in my final effects.
Nice and cool.
I ended up making him kind of look a bit more like Shawn Michaels, and that it wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional, but like I was a big Shawn Michaels fan as a kid, and so I don't know if it was probably like a bit subconscious. In fact, yeah, when we were kids, the names that me and Gerald both had initially was Sam Michaels and Gerald Giannetti. So
Love it. But, did you end up super kicking him through a barbershop somewhere in Scotland?
I've super kicked him all over Scotland. But yeah, so a bunch of the characters were based just on gimmicks that we came up with as kids. But and some of them are kind of more original. But yeah, a lot of the way they look actually is slightly intentional to be, because what I want people to be able to create their own characters. Mm-hmm. So you know, there's one of the wrestlers, Americana. People see the trailer and they go, oh, that's Rey Mysterio, and it's like, yeah, he's kind of done that way so that you have the tools when you're making your own guy to recreate a Rey Mysterio character. So there is a bit of intention there as well. But actually, there's a guy, an artist called Hal Haney, who he by himself has been just creating these characters, and he's an artist. So he's done lots of. I think he worked for the WWE at one point as well, doing art for them, and so he's done a bunch of designs that, like, I think Steve Austin commissioned them to do as well at one point. So he's got quite a big following as well. He's got, like, I think about 50,000 followers on Instagram. Wow. So I saw this guy creating these characters. So I messaged him and said, like, what are you commissioned to do these, or are you just doing them off your own back kind of thing? And he's like, no, I'm just doing them off my own back. These are just gimmicks and characters that I like, and the style of them as well would fit very well with the video game. So I ended up having a conversation with him, and we ended up deciding to work together on, basically, he's got now about 100 characters that are all going to be in the game.
Wow.
So actually the characters on the trailer, they're going to go through a little bit of a redesign, because Hal's basically going to just put his sort of artistic spin on them.
Magic touch, as they say.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that, because it's like that gives us, that was one of the hard parts of, like, you know, there's all the jobs associated with this. You know, there's making the game, which is, you know, programming, modeling, animation, graphics, everything. And then you've to come up with character designs on top of that. So it's like, you know, getting him just to come in and be like, all right, I've got these 100 characters, let's just put them in the game. It just makes it so much easier.
So Sam, for our listeners, tell our listeners what consoles this game is going to be available on. Obviously, with the way the online world is now, is it going to be something that, like, I could play against Adam? He's in Essex, I'm in Leighton Buzzard. Is it where is it? Is it literally going to be available everywhere?
Pretty much, yeah. The one thing I'm not sure about, because we need to test it, is a Steam Deck, which is like the
PC version. Yeah.
So it'll be on Steam, but we're not 100% sure about Steam Deck. It'll be on Switch, Xbox, PlayStation. What else? Oh yeah, so there's online play, and the thing that we don't have working just yet, we need to do a lot of testing. This will probably come next year. but we want to do crossplay so that if you're on Xbox,
yeah,
you can play against someone on PlayStation.
That seems to be the way gaming goes now. I mean, I've played a lot of Fortnite, Call of Duty, and as soon as you say to your friends, "Oh, I've got an Xbox, oh, I've only got a PlayStation," crossplay has got to be one of the best things ever invented. You don't have to add them specifically to your Xbox gamer tag. You can connect through the game. So you load up your gaming screen. So I can load up your game. Adam he's on a PlayStation. I'm on the Xbox, and that made the growth of games like WWE 2K30. Oh, PlayStation, they're going to play against a mate who's got an Xbox. Who, me and my daughter play Fortnite quite a lot. She sits next to me on her Switch, and I'm playing it on my Xbox. So that we never had that growth. Like as soon as when online gaming first come out, that was very much, oh, I've got an Xbox, I can't play against my friends. Now that's opened up a whole new world for gamers, hasn't it?
Yeah, and as well as being able to play against each other, one thing that I don't like about not having crossplay is I remember buying, I think it was a Dragon Ball Z game, and I remember like paying for characters, and of course you'd buy them on. I think we bought them on the Switch, but then we got the PlayStation version, and it's like, oh, you have to buy all these characters again. You can so that's a big element as well, because if people, if we. So this is something that's kind of in the works that we're kind of theorizing about. Is of course we have the fictional characters that will be in the game, and they'll be in the base version of the game. We'd love to. This is like an exclusive. I haven't said this anywhere else. We'd love to be able to get like real world wrestlers and work out a way where, because licensing is such a headache, we thought. Sorry, there's a dog outside.
That's right.
Because licensing is such a headache, we thought actually it was based on that Dragon Ball Z game where you'd pay, I think it was like £4 or something for an extra character, and we thought, well, what if we had a model where we could take two real life characters. The example that's going around just now is Demolition, Axe and Smash, because I think Cal kind of knows them. So we've been thinking about, well, if we were to do licensed characters, we could have them rather than just put them in the game or whatever. It'd be an actual DLC, and so if you pay for them in the game, then Ultra Pro Wrestling would get a cut, and you'd actually be given a cut directly to those wrestlers as well. So that's an idea that we're playing around with. But of course, that brings us back to, you don't want to have to buy those characters on Switch and then go to PlayStation to buy them again and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So the cross-play element for that is kind of a necessity.
Wow. Where are we with the game now then, Sam? What's the next big step that you guys are going to take in the development of this game?
So one thing that takes a long time is the animations, because we're trying to reproduce the AKI animations. Some people see the trailer and they think, oh, you just took the animations from the game, as if you can just plug the cartridge into your computer and you can just take anything you want. You can't, you physically can't get the animations from that game, and the modern community's been trying for years. So this is all like a recreation from the ground up. And so the thing that everything is geared towards right now is a one-on-one demo. But in order to do that, we need every animation capable of, not every animation in the game, because there's a whole bunch of moves we don't need for the one-on-one, but all the animations, it's just stuff that you don't even think about. Like the way the character stands up. If he's facing down, he has to stand up differently. If he's facing up, he stands up differently again. If he's tired, there's just, you work out, and there's at least 200 animations that we need for the one-on-one match. So the next 3 or 4 months are going to be geared towards getting as many animations done as possible.
And then, I play Battleground. I don't know if you guys have ever played that on the Xbox. PUBG, it's called. Everyone knows it's PUBG. They developed that. It's pretty much, it started how yours is kind of started, Sam. They were like, look, we're going to put out the demo, if you like, on the Xbox Live. And we're just going to let people play it as we develop it. So you'd play it like your character would have like just a vest and a pair of shorts on. You'd have no socks. You'd have no trainers. You'd struggle to pick up a gun. And now that's probably one of the biggest online games in the world. PUBG is one of the biggest online. It's up there with Fortnite. And it just started as, it's just like, look, we'll put the demo out on Xbox. Like you guys might have to do. You might have to put something out and go, look, let's see how this goes. Is that going to be a process that you're going to be kind of nervous about because you're kind of getting your baby and going, okay, here, world, have a little go at this and let us know what you think.
Yeah, I don't know. I maybe haven't had enough time to really think about being nervous about it, but yeah, it probably will be it probably will be quite a nerve-wracking experience putting out for the first time. But I think that with the community that we've built, I think they're all very understanding of that it is an independent team. It's a small team, and actually one of the benefits of putting out this one-on-one is that if there are bugs, if there are things that don't work right, we're going to be able to fix them fairly quickly. But yeah, I mean, I like the idea of. I'm not sure if we're going to do it like a one-on-one demo and then take a bit of time back and then release a full game, or like that the PUBG idea of just sort of slowly drip new features, new characters, new elements of it. Maybe that might be an interesting way to go, because I think
mate, they were a global brand, and every day I was like spinning around in a helicopter on the top of a building with no roof. And then 2 weeks later, the helicopter was perfect. So, mate, these things take time. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're developing a video game that's going to hopefully go across the world, mate. So, you know what I mean? Take your time with it. And PUBG could do it. And it's one of the biggest brands in the world now, mate. So I have every faith that you guys would do it. But
yeah, well, before we start letting you plug it a little bit further, let's talk modern day wrestling now. So I take it you're a wrestling fan now and you watch it. What's your feelings on it? If you listen to our podcast Monday, I'm probably just about steamed down after watching Raw.
You've calmed down, mate.
I calmed down a little bit. What's your thoughts currently? And obviously, your thoughts on the sale of the WWE and AEW bringing over All into Wembley?
For me, it's I'm not the best person to speak on it, because I sort of, I mean, I as I say, I grew up from the age of 5 being obsessed with wrestling, and it was around about the age of 20, I think. I stopped, because I was the person that I would record Monday Night Raw every week.
Yeah, me too.
I had like tapes full of, it's just all Monday Night Raw recordings. But yeah, there was a time, probably around maybe 2007, I think, where it just kind of all fell off, and I still watched every pay-per-view, but I stopped watching Raw, stopped watching SmackDown. Then it got to the point later on, a few years later, where then I'd only watch the kind of big pay-per-views like WrestleMania and Royal Rumble. So, and especially as well the last few years, because I've been working so much, the only time I ever really watched like AEW is if my brother still watches everything. So if there's like a really good AEW match, like he'll send me and be like, you have to watch this match. So yeah, and but also as well, because of the game development for the last couple of years, I've basically been working kind of nonstop. The only time I'm not working is when I'm with my kids. So I've been really missing out on a lot.
You are going to be the coolest dad in the world. You do realize this when this game comes out.
I don't know. I'm trying so hard to get my son interested in wrestling, and he just doesn't like. You know what's funny? He'll watch. Like, if I say to him, "Well, come through, you have to see this, watch this," and I'll try and I'll show him some Santino Morello clips to try and get him to laugh and everything, and he'll watch it.
We've got him. Yeah, we've got him on in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So he'll sit and he'll watch it and he'll laugh and he'll enjoy it, and then I'll be like, you want to watch another one? And then he goes, no, I'm good. And then he goes and he plays.
Puts YouTube on. Yeah.
My boy was quite funny because he was into obviously biggest storyline in WWE was Roman Reigns and his group, and he was a big fan of that. And I always used to go against him just to wind him up, because that's just what it is. And he'd sit there. He'd sit there, because I'm an evil dad, and he'd sit there and go, I don't care who wins this. The moment they kicked out of a big move, he was jumping. You just like, what do you mean you don't care? You know what I mean? It's just like
That's actually what I should have done. Just a bit of reverse psychology, because I don't know. I think you can totally tell whenever you're trying to get him interested in something. No, he's very much into Roblox at the moment.
That's in my house 24/7, mate. That and some I Am Santa on YouTube. I don't know, but Sam, tell our listeners where they can find you. What are the finer points of the game? When can we expect it to be released? Obviously, all your socials and what you've got coming up.
Oh, so in terms of release, everything we're doing right now is working towards this 1-on-1, which I think we've kind of got. We're giving ourselves a lot of time just in case there's any hiccups. So we've got that slotted for, I think, October, November. Is it?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's about October, November-ish. We kind of hope we'll actually get it out much sooner, but we're giving ourselves that sort of leeway. In terms of a full release, that won't be till next August. We're projecting next August. But yeah, so in terms of obviously we had the Kickstarter, so I'm used to whenever we were doing interviews, we're like, go to the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter's ended now. We didn't reach our last goal, so if anyone does want to help contribute, there is other ways to do that. We do have a Patreon. I think it's just Patreon/Ultra Pro Wrestling. In terms of social media, we do have like Facebook and Instagram and all the rest of it. They kind of get forgotten though. The only one that I really pay attention to that I'm quite active on is Twitter. For whatever reason, I don't know. Twitter.
I think we all are. I think.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that I think that's where I kind of get the most community engagement. So it's just always been Twitter. I think our handle is.
I can tell you. Hold on. I'll get it.
Yeah,
I've got it here as well. Somebody.
I forget because there's actually just so many of them.
UPW Video Games at UPW Video Game.
All right.
Make sure you all go and follow them now.
Yeah.
I'll take my slice of commission now for that.
Yeah. Just put him in the game. They'll think it's Stone
Cold.
Cold.
A picture of an egg. You can't go any better than that. Eggman.
They'll just think Stone Cold's let himself go or something. I don't know. But Sam, thanks so much, mate, for coming on our podcast, mate. We really do appreciate it. I know you're super, super busy right now. We wish you all the luck in the world, mate. I can't wait to play the demo. I can't wait to play the full game. I'm eager to see your process, mate. We'll definitely get you back on around launch time. You're always welcome on this show, mate. But honestly, it's amazing what you're doing. Honestly, it's incredible, and I just wish you all the luck in the world, my friend. And I hope it all goes really well for you.
No, thanks very much, and I absolutely appreciate it. Yeah, no, and there's been so much community feedback like that it's just it's awesome. So I'll promise you guys I'll do everything I can to make this the best game it can be.
Oh, mate, we can't wait. We can't wait. You're always welcome back on Hitting the Turnbuckle, mate. So good luck with it all. Make sure you go and check out Sam's Twitter handle. What is it, Adam?
A UPW video.
Dude, well done, mate.
That's another bit. That's another slice.
That's another slice of money. But go and check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I've been your host, Andy Burrows, with my good friend, Adam Cousins. We will be back tomorrow with our AEW review show. Till then, everybody, stay safe.